Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video, we're going to be creating another user so that we don't have to log in as the root user, just for increased security. When we log in as the root user, I've mentioned the root user is a very important user in Unix, and it has access to do anything, so it potentially can mess up your server, making sure that you have to create another one. So the root user has a lot of power, and sometimes that is very useful. For example, when installing applications in your server, you want to do it as the root user, so it has access to modify all of the different files and folders in your server. But normally, you don't want to be the root user, just because the root user has so many permissions that if you install something, for example, and everything you do is done by the root user, other users, such as the Postgres user, may not have access to the files and folders you create using the root user. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new user by following the command add user space Jose. The name here is the name of the user that we're creating, and I'm calling it Jose. You can call it your name or whatever you want, but just know that this is going to come up over and over again. So whenever I type Jose, you're going to have to type your username. But apart from that, that's everything you need. And what this does is that creates a new user called Jose, and it creates a new group called Jose as well. A group is a collection of users, and you can set group permissions. For example, you may tell Unix, your Ubuntu server, that all users in the group Jose have access to a specific folder, for example. And then even if an individual user doesn't have access to that folder, because they are in the group, they will have access to it. It's just a way of setting permissions in Unix. Next, we're going to set the password for this user, and make sure that that's different from the root password, just for security as well. Okay, then you can put in your full name, which I will do, and then there's a few things that I'm just going to leave blank there. Finally, we get this prompt, is the information correct? And because the Y is a capital letter, that is the default value that we're going to select if we leave it blank. So just pressing enter makes sure that we say that the information is correct. Okay. The next thing we have to do is make sure that the Jose user can temporarily gain access to being root, so that we can do things like install programs and things like that. The way we're going to do that is by running the vsudo command. Okay, this brings you to a reasonably scary looking window, but this is just a file. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify this file so that the Jose user has access to being root sometimes. So we want to find, by pressing the arrows, this line here that says user privilege specification. And under root all equals all colon all, we're going to type Jose all equals all colon all. So essentially copying it, but putting in your username at the beginning. Notice that the spacing between these things doesn't matter. I just left it there for readability purposes, but it doesn't matter. Once that's done, we're going to save the file to the disk, and we're going to do that by running this command here, which is Control-O, and then we're going to press enter to save it on top of the existing file, and finally we're going to press Control-X to exit. And that's saved. The next thing we have to do is to make sure that we can log into the server directly as the Jose user, as opposed to the root user. So what we're going to do is press vi/etc/ssh/sshd config. So vi /etc/ssh/sshd_config. And this brings you to another nice looking text file. And what we want to find here is one specific line. So I'm going to go down, pressing the down arrow, until you find this line that says permit root login. And it says yes. That means that we can log into the server as the root user. And this is not very safe. We should not be allowing people to log in as the root user. Because if the root password gets cracked, then our server is in a bit of trouble. So we're going to press the I key in your keyboard, and that goes into insert mode, and then we're going to delete the yes and put no instead. Then we're going to press the escape key to leave insert mode. Then we're going to go down to the very bottom of the file, which can be a bit long. And we are going to right down here, press the I key again to go into insert mode, go to the very end of the line and press enter. And we're going to write allow users Jose, and then press escape again. What this does is it tells SSH, which is our connection protocol, to allow the Jose user to connect to this server. So we've denied the root user from connecting, and now we're going to allow the Jose user to connect. Okay, so you have to make sure that your password for the Jose user is quite strong, because remember, the Jose user has access to being root as well. So if your Jose user password is very weak, that poses a security threat there. Okay, so then once you've pressed escape to leave insert mode, we want to press :WQ, and what that means is write and quit. So it's going to save the file, write it to the disk, and quit. And finally, at the very end, we want to say service sshd reload. And what that does is that reloads the service and allows us to use the new configuration. Okay. Now we're going to press exit, which is going to disconnect from the server. And we can do SSH Jose at and the server here. Oh, apologies. And then we're going to press enter, and now it asks us for the Jose user password, which we're going to put in. And now we're logged in as the Jose user. Now, this user has access to being root. So the way we would be root, or log in as root now, would be sudo su. And that is going to ask us for our password again, which we're going to put in. And now we are logged in as the root user. We can press exit, and that brings us back to being the Jose user. And then we can press exit again, and that brings us back to our computer. So now we've logged out of the server. Okay. So that's everything for this video. We've created a new user, and now we're going to make sure that PostgreSQL is linked to that user so we can use PostgreSQL while we are the Jose user, or your user, if you've created a different name. So that's everything for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.